What happened when an undercover CEO walked into his own auto shop and discovered two trusted employees stealing, and an innocent man had been fired to cover it up, will leave you stunned. Welcome back, friends. You've got great taste in stories that matter, and today's tale is one you won't forget. It's about betrayal, hidden surveillance, and a redemption so powerful it'll restore your faith in doing the right thing. So grab a coffee, settle in, and let's dive into a true story of justice, second chances, and the legacy of a man who refused to look the other way. Logan Grayson hadn't set foot inside Grayson Auto and Tire in nearly 6 months, not since handing over day-to-day operations to his trusted crew and stepping back into semi-retirement. At 57, he'd earned it. After 3 decades of grease, grit, and 12-hour days, he wanted time for fishing trips, slow mornings, and maybe catching a high school game without checking part shipments on his phone. But when his accountant flagged a series of troubling discrepancies, missing parts, unexplained cash gaps, and an unusual rise in customer complaints, Logan's gut twisted. Something wasn't right. The final straw came when he learned that Marcus Webb, the longtime assistant manager he had personally mentored for years, had been fired for allegedly skimming inventory. That didn't sit right with Logan. Marcus was steady, honest, a man who once paid out of pocket to cover a stranded customer's tow bill. Still, Logan had signed the termination paperwork himself, trusting the team's judgment. Now that trust felt misplaced. Logan needed answers, not reports or second-hand opinions. He needed to see it for himself. Early Monday morning, he pulled on a faded flannel, tucked his gray hair under an old ball cap, and drove his beat-up 2002 Ford Ranger into the parking lot, parking around the corner. To the staff, he'd just be another walk-in needing a tire rotation. No name, no title, just a man with a truck and question. As he sat behind the wheel, watching the garage doors open and the first wave of employees shuffle in with coffees and half-hearted nods, he felt something strange. Nervous. This was his shop. He built it from a single lift and borrowed tools, but now it felt like unfamiliar territory, a place that had kept running without him, maybe too well. He watched Derek, the lead mechanic, slap Ryan on the back and disappear into Bay 3. The laughter that followed didn't sound like morning shop talk. It sounded like smug confidence. Logan stepped out of the truck and walked toward the front desk, the familiar hum of impact wrenches echoing off the cinder block walls. He passed the customer lounge. Magazines scattered, coffee machine empty, front counter unattended. A sharp pang hit him. This wasn't just a business slipping. It was his legacy unraveling. As he stepped inside and introduced himself under a false name, Logan didn't feel like the owner anymore. He felt like a ghost in his own garage, unseen, uncertain, but determined to uncover whatever truth lay buried under the oil-stained floors. From the moment Logan stepped through the front door posing as a walk-in customer, something felt wrong. The shop used to hum with purpose. Friendly greetings at the counter, clean waiting area, mechanics moving with pride. Now it felt hollow. The receptionist barely glanced up from her phone before muttering, "Fill this out," and sliding over a clipboard with grease-streaked fingers. The coffee station was bone dry. The magazines dated, and the air smelled less like rubber and oil and more like apathy. Logan took a seat near the window, carefully angling himself with a view of the front counter and garage bays. Within minutes he spotted Ryan, the younger of the 2 mechanics suspected in the missing inventory reports, joking loudly with a customer while pocketing a folded bill before ringing up the sale. No one else noticed. Derek, the senior tech, leaned casually against a toolbox, pretending to sort lug nuts while glancing toward the parking lot, like he was expecting someone. A middle-aged woman pulled in moments later, clearly anxious. "It's making a clicking noise," she said. Logan watched from the corner as Derek whisked her inside, told her it was likely the control arm, and promised to check the suspension thoroughly. Moments later, he muttered to Ryan, "Sell her the whole front-end kit, it'll pad the invoice." Logan's stomach tightened. Not only were they inflating repairs, They were preying on people who didn't know better. This wasn't upselling, it was exploitation. He looked around at the younger techs, some just out of trade school, clearly following Derek's lead. They laughed when Ryan shouted, "Another sucker just paid for gold when she needed tin." Logan clenched his jaw. He'd built this place on trust. Free break checks for seniors, first jobs for high schoolers, transparent pricing posted on the wall. Now that wall was covered by a faded calendar and a no refunds sign in duct tape. The worst part wasn't even the theft, it was the culture, the quiet erosion of pride, the normalization of dishonesty. Logan realized this wasn't just a couple of bad apples. It was rotten, and it ran deeper than he'd feared. As he watched Derek slip a new air filter into a toolbox rather than inventory it, Logan knew what he had to do. He didn't come just to sniff out trouble. He came to reclaim his shop. But first, he had to see how far the damage had spread. This wasn't a garage he recognized. It was a mask, hiding something rotten underneath. The deeper Logan dug, the more sinister the picture became. He had hoped, naively, that the problems were the result of poor management or laziness, something that could be corrected with a firm hand. But what he overheard on his second undercover visit shattered that illusion. As he sat quietly in the corner of the waiting area, pretending to scroll on his phone, Derek and Ryan chatted just out of view, unaware they were being listened to. "Can't believe Marcus bought it," Ryan snorted. "Guy actually thought it was his own mistake." Derek laughed, low and mean. He walked out with his head down. Classic. "That missing break order was never even in the system. I deleted it." Logan froze. Marcus hadn't just been wrongfully fired. He'd been set up. Derek and Ryan had manipulated the inventory system, faked a discrepancy, and fed it to Tammy, the shop manager, at a time when customer complaints were piling up and pressure was high. They didn't just sabotage Marcus's job, they crushed his reputation. Logan remembered the day Marcus was fired. He hadn't questioned the evidence. Derek had brought in printouts, Ryan had corroborated the story, and Tammy, stressed and uncertain, had signed off. Logan had made the final call. Now, sitting in the same building Marcus had once run with pride, Logan felt the full weight of that mistake. It wasn't just oversight. It was betrayal. Not only by the mechanics who had turned his shop into a personal ATM, but by himself for turning a blind eye. He'd trusted his team to act with integrity, and when the moment came to defend a good man, he'd failed. That night, Logan didn't sleep. He replayed the conversations in his head, saw Marcus's confused expression when he handed over his keys, heard the quiet in the room when Logan told him he had no choice. The betrayal went both ways. Derek and Ryan had stolen money. Logan had stolen a man's future. Determined to make it right, Logan called Walt Jenkins the next morning. Walt, a retired Marine and lifelong friend, now worked part-time in private security and owed Logan more than a few favors. "You once helped me fix my marriage," Walt said. "I'll help you fix your shop." Together, they began planning a quiet surveillance operation. Cameras in the rafters, a mic near the register, multiple visits under different disguises. Logan didn't want revenge. He wanted proof. Undeniable, inarguable, courtroom-clear proof. Not just to fire the thieves, but to restore the man they buried. With Walt's help, Logan launched a quiet war behind the scenes, one the crew at Grayson Auto had no idea they were already losing. Before sunrise on a Thursday, Walt arrived in an unmarked van, parking discreetly behind the shop. In his hands, a set of pinhole cameras, audio recorders, and a compact wireless router to stream footage directly to Logan's laptop. By the time the first mechanic clocked in, 3 miniature cameras were positioned, one near the register, another above Bay 3 where most of the shady transactions occurred, and a third in the break room, where egos ran loose and lips got careless. Over the next 3 days, Logan returned as 3 different customers, once in a hoodie and sunglasses, once as a concerned grandfather asking about tires, and once as a delivery driver with a fake accent. Each time, he caught more than he expected. Ryan quoted a young mother, triple the cost of a basic belt replacement, telling her the engine might seize if she didn't act fast. Derek sold a full set of shocks out the back door to a man who paid cash and never stepped inside. One tech quietly asked Derek, "Hey, didn't Marcus used to order these for way less?" Derek replied, "Marcus isn't here, is he?" That same afternoon, Logan sat in his truck, reviewing the footage on his laptop. Every scene played like a reel of betrayal. Walt leaned in beside him, muttering, "This isn't incompetence, it's organized theft." But it wasn't just the stealing, it was the swagger, the way Derek tossed customer receipts like trash, or Ryan chuckled while palming a folded tip left on the counter. It was their total comfort in dishonesty that infuriated Logan most. And yet, a moment of doubt crept in. One morning, Logan saw Ryan offer a free oil change to a stressed-out nurse running late for work. "This one's on us," he smiled, sincerely. Logan hesitated. Was he wrong? Was there still good in these guys? That flicker of hope vanished the next night when the hidden camera caught Derek boasting about cleaning out the tire inventory and bragging that Tammy wouldn't know a missing valve stem from a hole in the wall. The evidence was building, and so was Logan's resolve. This wasn't just about theft, it was about rebuilding trust. The trap was almost ready, but before springing it, he needed one final act, one that would catch them in real time in front of the entire team. It had to be public, it had to be undeniable, and it had to be soon. Logan knew that to truly expose Derek and Ryan, he couldn't just rely on hidden footage. He had to catch them red-handed, while they believed no one was watching. On Monday morning, Logan returned to Grayson Auto and Tire not as a ghost in flannel or a nameless customer, but as the man who built the place from the ground up. Wearing a crisp shop logo jacket, steel-toe boots, and his signature navy ball cap, he walked through the front door with purpose. The reaction was immediate. Conversations froze mid-sentence. Tools clanked against the concrete. Derek spotted him first and straightened like a soldier at inspection, while Ryan offered a tense, too wide smile. "Morning, boss." "Didn't know you were stopping by," Logan responded with a calm nod. "Just dropping in, thought I'd see how things are running." He made small talk with Tammy, took a brief walk through the bays, then returned to the front counter. The setup was simple. He requested a basic tire rotation, something quick and low effort, and handed Ryan 2 crisp $20 bills. "One's for the work," he said, "the other's for the crew. Make sure it gets to the tip jar." He looked Ryan straight in the eye, then turned and walked away toward the customer lounge, pretending to check messages on his phone. From the hidden camera in the ceiling, Walt whispered through Logan's earpiece, "He's hesitating, looking around, and, yep." He just slid it into his back pocket. Logan didn't flinch. He sipped stale coffee and waited. A few minutes later, he approached the counter again. "Hey, just checking, did that tip make it to the jar?" Ryan blinked, thrown. Not yet. I was just about to." He reached into his pocket and fumbled the 20 into the tip jar like it burned his fingers. Logan smiled. "Appreciate it." But inside, the trap had sprung. The theft was now caught on hidden video and followed by a failed lie in real time. Still, Logan wasn't done. A second setup followed, this time with Derek. Logan made a separate parts purchase, left a $50 0-cents bill on the counter, and stepped outside for a staged phone call. Walt's voice came through again. "Derek just voided the transaction. He's pocketing the cash. We've got it." That was the moment Logan knew the time for gathering was over. The next phase wasn't about watching, it was about revealing. And he wouldn't do it behind closed doors. He would confront the truth in front of everyone, in the same shop where it had been hidden in plain sight for too long. By Tuesday morning, Logan was ready to lift the curtain. He had spent the night organizing clips, time-stamping evidence, and prepping with Walt to ensure nothing could be denied or dismissed. When he walked into Grayson Auto and Tire that morning, he carried more than a clipboard. He carried the weight of accountability. After observing for an hour, Logan called Tammy into the break room. "Get everyone together," he said. "I need to speak to the whole team." She nodded, a bit confused but sensing the seriousness in his tone. Minutes later, every mechanic, receptionist, and tech in laning stood in the shop's open bay area. Walt arrived soon after, carrying a laptop and a portable projector. Logan stepped forward, the hum of the compressor quieting as all eyes turned to him. "I started this shop 30 years ago with one goal: build a place where people could trust the work and trust each other," he began. "Somewhere along the line that got lost. But today, we're going to find it again." He motioned to Walt, who began projecting video footage onto the garage wall. The first clip showed Ryan pocketing Logan's $20.00 tip after glancing around. The second, Derek voiding a transaction and slipping cash into his boot. Then came the footage of them mocking Marcus Webb, bragging about setting him up and laughing over drinks about how management bought every word. Murmurs rippled through the group. One tech stepped back, eyes wide. A receptionist gasped. "That's not all," Logan said, his voice steady. "They didn't just steal from the register. They stole from your tip jar, your inventory, your reputation, and worst of all, they stole from Marcus, a man who gave this place everything." He paused, letting the silence settle like dust after a hard job. "Marcus didn't deserve to be fired. I signed off on it, and I was wrong. The weight of that admission wasn't lost on the team." Some looked ashamed, others angry. Logan turned to Derek and Ryan, who stood stiffly at the edge of the crowd. "You two are done here. Effective immediately, Walt and Tammy will escort you to gather your things. You'll leave with nothing you didn't earn." Ryan opened his mouth, but Derek grabbed his arm and pulled him back, muttering, "Let's go." The crowd parted, watching them walk away in silence. For the first time in months, the shop felt still. Logan looked back at his team. "It's time we started fixing more than cars. It's time we fixed this place. And ourselves." In the aftermath of the confrontation, emotions at Grayson Auto and Tire ran hot. The betrayal cut deep, not just because Derek and Ryan had stolen money, but because they had deceived people who considered them friends. Mechanics who once shared lunch breaks with them now stood stunned, replaying memories through a new lens. "I always wondered why the tip jar felt light," muttered Jose, a quiet tech who often covered weekend shifts. "They told me it was just a slow season." A receptionist, eyes rimmed red, whispered, "Marcus trained me. He stayed late to help me close my first week. I didn't even say goodbye when he got fired." The guilt was communal, but for Logan it was personal. He stood in the office with Tammy and Walt, watching the shop floor from behind the glass. "We let this happen," he said quietly. "On our watch." Tammy nodded, visibly shaken. "I should have asked more questions. I thought I was doing my job, keeping order." Walt, ever the steady one, placed a hand on Logan's shoulder. "You're doing your job now." Outside, the crew was huddled around the tip jar, now placed back where it belonged. Visible, transparent, honest. They took turns checking it, adjusting the logbook Marcus had started before his firing, and making sure nothing was missed again. Logan stepped out and called for everyone's attention once more. "I can't promise we'll never make mistakes," he said. "But I can promise we'll never ignore our gut again. No more shortcuts. No more blind trust. If something feels wrong, speak up. If you need help, ask. And if someone breaks that trust, I'll be the first to handle it." He then handed out printed copies of the new ethics and operations policy, which he and Walt had stayed up late drafting. From now on, every transaction would be cross-logged, every part scanned, and every tip documented. There would be no more gray areas. As Logan looked around at the staff, some teary-eyed, others quietly nodding, he felt the weight begin to lift. Not all wounds heal quickly, but truth was a start. And as the day went on, oil got changed, engines tuned, and laughter slowly returned to the bay. The shop wasn't whole yet, but it was healing, and this time, it was on a foundation of truth. Logan waited until the shop lights dimmed before driving across town to the all-night tire center off Route 7. The parking lot was mostly empty, lit by flickering halogens and the neon "Open 24 Hours" sign, buzzing faintly above the door. This wasn't the kind of place Marcus Webb belonged, not after years of loyalty, late nights, and the respect he had earned at Grayson Auto. But it was where he'd landed after being cast out, and Logan knew it was time to face him. Inside, Marcus stood at the counter, wiping down tools, his posture heavier, his eyes dull. The broad-shouldered, confident manager Logan once knew now looked like a man surviving. When Marcus looked up and saw Logan, his face hardened. "What are you doing here?" he asked, guarded but calm. "I'm not here to accuse you again," Logan said quietly. "I'm here to apologize." Marcus didn't move. "You believed them," he said. "You looked me in the eye and let me walk out like a thief." Logan nodded slowly. "I did, and I was wrong." He took a folded envelope from his coat and placed it on the counter. "This is for you." An official letter of apology, full reinstatement, a promotion to general manager, and a compensation package. "We have evidence now. Everything. You were framed by Derek and Ryan. They're gone. The team knows the truth." Marcus didn't touch the envelope. For a long moment he said nothing, then his voice cracked slightly. "You have no idea what that did to me, Logan. I couldn't get work. I lost my apartment. My mom thought I was lying. My fiancé left." Logan swallowed hard. "I can't undo the damage, but I want to make it right. Not just because it's the right thing to do, but because we need you." Marcus finally picked up the envelope. He opened it and scanned the contents, stopping at the compensation figure. His eyes flicked up. "You're offering me the general manager position?" "You earned it long before I let them take it from you," Logan replied. "And I want your help building new systems so no one ever goes through what you did again." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then I'll come back, but not out of pity." "I'm coming back to protect what we built." Logan extended a hand. Marcus shook it, firm, steady, and filled with something Logan hadn't seen in a long time. 2 weeks later, Grayson Auto and Tire felt like a different place. Familiar, but reborn. The laughter that once carried arrogance now rang with camaraderie. The bays moved in rhythm, the front desk was attentive, and every mechanic, from veterans to the newest apprentice, operated with renewed purpose. At the center of it all stood Marcus Webb, now in his rightful place as general manager. He moved with quiet authority, clipboard in hand, greeting customers by name, checking invoices, and mentoring the younger techs with a steady patience that had always set him apart. The new accountability systems he helped implement were already making a difference. Cameras synced with inventory software, parts logs triple-checked, and a transparent tip policy posted on the wall for all to see. Even longtime customers noticed the shift. "It feels like the old Graysons again," one elderly man said as he picked up his Buick. Logan stood near the office window, sipping his coffee, watching Marcus resolve a scheduling mix-up with calm professionalism. The pride swelling in his chest wasn't about profits or reputation. It was about knowing the heart of the business had been restored. On the wall behind the counter, where the faded calendar once hung, now stood a new plaque. "Integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is watching." It was Marcus's idea. Logan approved it without hesitation. He knew now that the legacy of Grayson Auto wasn't the logo on the front sign or the number of cars serviced each month. It was the people, and it was the values they carried. As the lunch rush slowed, Marcus looked up and caught Logan's eye through the glass. He gave a small nod, not just of acknowledgement, but of mutual respect. Logan nodded back, the moment quiet but profound. He thought about how close he'd come to losing everything he'd built. Not from sabotage, but from complacency. Truth had returned to the shop, but so had something else, hope. As Logan turned to head back to his truck, he paused one last time and looked over the shop floor. The clatter of tools, the smell of oil, the hum of conversation. It felt alive again, whole. Justice, he realized, wasn't just exposing the guilty. It was restoring the good. And in that moment, with Marcus leading the way and the team rallying behind him, Logan knew his legacy was in good hands. The story of Grayson Auto and Tire teaches a powerful lesson about leadership, trust, and accountability. Logan Grayson learned the hard way that stepping back doesn't mean letting go of responsibility. Blind trust, even in familiar faces, can allow corruption to fester in silence. But more importantly, the story reveals that true leadership is not about control, it's about courage. Logan had the courage to confront hard truths, admit his own failures, and fight to restore not just a business, but a man's dignity. Marcus's journey shows that integrity, even when unrecognized or punished, holds value that endures beyond betrayal. And for the team, it was a wake-up call. Doing the right thing matters, even when no one is watching. Systems, policies, and rules are important, but without honesty and vigilance, even the best structures collapse. Ultimately, the shop's revival wasn't just about firing the guilty. It was about standing up for the innocent, rebuilding trust, and remembering that a true legacy isn't written in profit margins, but in the character of those who carry it forward. This story reminds us that justice is only complete when redemption is part of it, and that good people, when restored, can build stronger foundations than before.